Today we're going to go over the top 5 dangers to watch out for when visiting Florida. So this is part of a new series that I've started on VaycaySAFE and VaycaySAFE.com, where we're going to go over the top dangers in every single travel location, whether it's a state, territory, or nation throughout the world. We're going to start with Florida, given that it's a huge tourist and leisure destination, not only within the United States, but internationally. So let's go start over the top 5 biggest dangers. Number 1, hurricanes and tropical storms. So as you can see here, the season runs between June through November, with heavy rains, flooding, power outages possible. So not only do we have to face hurricanes and tropical storms within Florida, but you also have to be careful of large rainstorms that could happen any moment's notice. Also, which aren't frequent, but tornadoes do happen, as well as water spouts. So always be careful. Lightning is also another huge danger that you have to be careful of, especially if you are swimming out in the water. Number 2, heat and dehydration. Extremely important given how hot Florida is, hence why it's such a popular tourist destination. So temperatures are usually always high throughout year-round. There's that occasional time where it could fluctuate and go lower, but for the majority of the time you're looking at 70s and above. In some of the hottest months in the summer, for example in Miami, where it can feel like 90 degrees, the real feel could be as high as is in the hundreds. So keep this in mind. Always stay hydrated and watch out for heat warnings when visiting Florida. Right here. Number 3, wildlife, both in the on land and in water. So alligators, snakes, jellyfish, bobcats, wild boar, for example, snakes. These are some of the wildlife that you will encounter within Florida, and the majority of the wildlife can potentially cause harm to you. So when encountering these animals, keep your distance and do not interact with them. Florida, given that there's so many swamps and there's just a lot of rural areas, it's always present. So this is the first video in the introduction to my new series, the top 5 dangers. So we're going to explore not only the United States and individual states and locations, but we're going to explore territories and nations throughout the world. Today we're going to start with Florida, given how popular of a tourist destination it is, both for international and US tourists. So let's start by going over the top 5 dangers within Florida while visiting. Number 1, hurricanes and tropical storms. As you can see here, the season runs between June and November, with heavy rains, flooding, power outages possible. So not only is Florida pretty popular for these storms, you also will have frequent rainstorms that could begin without warning. There also is, which aren't frequent but do happen, tornadoes and of course water spouts, which you're most likely to encounter in terms of severe weather events rather than tornadoes. But they do happen, and you have to be aware of this, especially if you are out in the water. And lightning, of course, which usually accompanies many of these big rainstorms. So moving on, number 2, heat, dehydration. We know it's Florida. It's got the reputation of being extremely hot. So especially during some of these summer months, for example in southern Florida, when it may be 90 degrees, it could feel like 110. So always be mindful of this and stay hydrated when visiting. Over here, number 3, wildlife, land and in water. So alligators, snakes, jellyfish, bobcats, coyotes, wild boar. These are just some examples of animals that you may encounter while visiting. And be mindful that many of these wild animals, they could potentially be very dangerous for humans, and especially young children. So when visiting both rural areas, lakes, canals, be very careful, and if you see any of these animals, make sure to maintain distance. Number 4, driving risks. Present throughout the entire country, but Florida, given that it is a very large populated state and with so many tourists, you have to be careful even more so. So driving risks, especially along I-95 corridor, and with the frequent rains, the roads can be very slick. So be mindful of this, and always, pay attention to the weather. Stay safe. Last, crime. So crime, especially in tourist destinations. Miami, Tampa, Jacksonville, Orlando. These are big areas. You want to make sure you keep onto your belongings. Always be aware of where you are. Stay out of certain neighborhoods. Stay towards the more downtown nightlife tourist destinations. Don't venture too far out, especially if you don't know where you're going and you're not aware of where you are. You're not really well acclimated with the area. So always be mindful of that. Know where you are. Make sure that you stay in a safe location, safe hotel or Airbnb or whatever whatever arrangements you've made. Try to stick to registered taxis, Ubers. Don't go walking out at night in a random neighborhood. Don't try to interact too much with people you don't know, you're unfamiliar with, and always again keep a hold onto your belongings, because Florida has it's very well known for pickpocketings and thefts, and there are certain areas where crime rates are a lot higher than other places. So again, these are the top 5 dangers to watch out for when visiting Florida, and stay tuned for the next video where we explore more states, territories, and nations.